All right, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, whatever time you're tuning into this video, just make sure that it is good. My name is Game Boy Rob, and today is a glorious day. Today is a wonderful, glorious, wunderbar day, because it is the day that I finally found a deck that I like and is powerful at the same time, and I found a deck that I was able to climb with. Today I went all the way from Platinum 4 all the way to Diamond 4 in a single stream. Took me about 6 hours to do that, and we did it with exclusively this deck right here. We have got Lissandra, Trundle, Shadow Isles Freljord, sort of mid-rangey semi-control deck, right? You guys have probably seen something a lot like this deck on ladder. You've probably seen various versions of this of Lissandra decks, and this is the one that has performed well for me. Essentially what I did was I went on Mobalytics and took the highest ranking Lissandra Trundle deck. I took that, played it a little bit, tweaked it around so that it fit me and my playstyle, and this is the result right here. We have got obviously 3 Lissandra and 3 Trundles. We've got 3 Frozen Thralls. Now, apparently it's pretty hotly debated. It is a bit controversial on whether or not the card Frozen Thrall is good and whether you should run it or just, you know, not even bother. And I am firmly in the camp of pro. I am definitely pro Frozen Thrall. I think this card is super fun, it's super flavorful, and I think it is worth putting in your deck for sure. A Frozen Thrall on turn 1 and a Draklorn Inquisitor on turn 5 is incredibly scary. It will force your opponent to do something. It will force your opponent to try and kill Draklorn somehow. They must, right? If you can get an 8/8, you know, a 1-mana 8/8 with Overwhelm as early as turn 6, you are almost always winning that game. So your opponent must deal with your Draklorn on turn 5 if you've played a Frozen Thrall on turn 1, right? And a lot of people will say, well, yeah, that's great. And obviously if you draw it and play it on turn 1, you know, wonderful. But if you ever draw it later, doesn't it become like completely useless? Isn't it just a completely dead draw? Sometimes. The answer is sometimes, but not always. You can, it's actually really surprising how often these matter. Like, yeah, in a lot of games, you can just play this on turn like, or like draw this. You can like draw this on like round 6 and you know, you'll be like, oh, well, what's the point? You know, the game's not going to last another 8 rounds. Why do I even bother playing this? And you'd be surprised how often it actually matters that you play it. And hopefully I'll be able to showcase that today. But yeah, I'm definitely pro Frozen Thrall. I think you should put 3 of these in your Lissandra decks, and I think they'll not steer you wrong. I think they will not lead you astray. And then we've got 3 copies of 3 Sisters. Oh my goodness, we weren't sure this card was going to be any good when we were looking at it in, you know, when it was revealed, but my god, this card puts in the work. It is so flexible. Anytime you need to flash freeze, 3 Sisters is there. If you really need to stop a Lee Sin from kicking in your face, you can either entomb him or flash freeze him as you need. You can entomb your own units to save them. Like if your opponent, you know, tries to vengeance one of your Frostguard Thralls, you can just entomb it and get it again later, and this will level up Lissandra and like all sorts of good things. This card is extremely flexible, does everything it needs to do, and it absolutely needs to be a 3 of in this deck. We've got 2 Avarosan Sentry, 3 Troll Chants, 3 Vile Feasts. I shouldn't have to explain any of those cards. You all know why those cards are good, and you all know why we're running them, right? They're just good for this sort of slower, mid-rangey, control-y archetype, right? They're just good cards. Then we've got 3 copies of Ice Shard. Now this card is definitely good. This is definitely a good card. It is really good in the meta right now. This card absolutely shuts down or helps you to shut down Fizz Twisted Fate decks. It helps to deal with all of the Lucian Azir decks running around, and actually every sort of Azir deck running around right now. But even in other matchups, this card goes a long way. It can help out, you know, pop barriers in Fiora Shen. It just has a lot of utility, and our deck is sort of built in such a way that this is always going to get value, especially if we have a Lissandra on the board, right? If we have a level 2 Lissandra and our Nexus is tough, then obviously this is just getting us positive value, right? So 3 copies of Ice Shard. If the meta shifts around and like there are fewer aggro decks running around, maybe we'll go down to 2 or 1 copy of Ice Shard, but for now 3 for sure. We've got 3 Kindly Tavern Keepers because boy do we like to heal. We've got 3 copies of Lissandra, only 2 copies of Avalanche, and 3 copies of Blighted Ravine, which confused me when I first saw it. I've seen other lists like this where they only run 2 Avalanche, and it confused me when I first saw that, because you'd think, you know, 3 Avalanches belongs in this deck, especially over 3 Blighted Ravine, but between Avalanche and Ice Shard, Blighted Ravine actually tends to be a more important card, often due to the healing, right? Blighted Ravine, I'm sorry, gets you a net 2 healing if you have taken 4 or more damage already, and that goes a long way towards making this card slightly better than Avalanche. And in addition, the fact that this completely stops open attacks is very, very powerful. When you play an Avalanche, right, you sort of are playing a game of chicken with your opponent, right? Your opponent says, how much can I develop before I end the round? And you're thinking, how many more cards can I survive before I have to play the Avalanche, right? And if you, the player playing Avalanche, wait too long, if you say, okay, I think I need to make them play 1 more unit, they might not play any, you know, and end the round and then attack you, and suddenly, you know, you got your mana burned or something. Blighted Ravine doesn't have that problem. You slap down a Blighted Ravine on your defensive, you know, on your offensive turn, on the turn that you have the attack token, and your opponent just can't open attack you, right? They can't develop more and get ready for an open attack, and they can't they can't do anything, right? If they overcommit and then you Blighted Ravine, it, you know, either way works. So Blighted Ravine, very, very good card. Definitely belongs as the 3 of in this deck. Honestly, Avalanche even gets knocked down to a 2, and that kind of makes sense, which surprised me. I did not think that was how that was going to go, but here we are. Obviously 3 Draklorn Inquisitor. This is like a key aspect of this deck. Absolutely puts in the work, makes your Frozen Thralls actually do something, right? Even the ones that come off of Lissandra, right? Even if you play a Lissandra and you get her Frozen Thrall, oftentimes that doesn't do anything until way late in the game, unless you draw a Draklorn on like round 7 or something, and then suddenly the Frozen Thrall that came from Lissandra suddenly matters, right? Obviously, we talked about the Frozen Thralls on turn 1, make this a very, very good card. Even playing this guy on 5, and then like later getting on like round 10, you get the second Draklorn Inquisitor, that's really good. It's just he just needs to be in this deck. Draklorn just I shouldn't have to explain, needs to be in this deck very much. Obviously, we got three copies of Trundle. The reason Lissandra and Trundle go together is because Lissandra needs to see you summon things that cost 8 or more, and Trundle gives you something that sort of simultaneously costs 8 and costs 0. It's sort of the best of both worlds, right? This is a free way of summoning an 8+ cost unit. Which is why they need to go together so well. And then let's see, we've got 1 copy of Withering Whale, again because there's a lot of aggro running around right now. 1 copy of Atrocity, because we're not, as you can see, we're not actually running Commander Ledros. We can sometimes Atrocity Frozen Thralls and maybe a big Trundle and that sort of thing, but I cut it down from 2 to 1 because I found that getting 2 Atrocities in a hand doesn't usually help too much. And it sort of clunked us out, and I replaced 1 Atrocity with 1 Vengeance. So now we have 2 Vengeance and 1 Atrocity, which personally I like better, but you could certainly argue for having 2 Atrocities. And then at the top end, we've got 2 Spectral Matrons. You guys probably know why this is here, but in case you don't, allow me to explain. Lissandra is a champion, in case you're not aware, who says, I level up when you've summoned 2+ allies that cost 8 or more. When I level up, create a Watcher in your hand, and a Watcher is this right here. Watcher is a 17 mana 11/17 that says I cost 0 if you've summoned 4 or more allies that cost 8 or more this game. And then when the Watcher attacks, you obliterate the entire enemy deck, thus winning the game 9 times out of 10. And obviously this is a very powerful unit, but we cannot cast it, we cannot play it until we have already played or summoned 4 units that cost 8 or more. And that's not easy. That's not an easy thing to do. Spectral Matron is here to help us do that. There's 2 things that Spectral Matron can do, and sometimes it can do them at the same time. Thing 1 is cheat. You could just cheat out the Watcher. If you've leveled up Lissandra and you have a Watcher in your hand, you could just play Spectral Matron and get out an ephemeral copy of the Watcher. Bada bing, bada boom. You win. You attack with the Watcher, the ephemeral copy. It obliterates the enemy deck. You win the game. Easy peasy, right? That's the idea. That's the dream. That's the that is the object of putting Spectral Matron in our deck. But when that doesn't happen, if you don't happen to have a Watcher in your hand at the time you have Spectral Matron, there are other things it can do too. Getting you an extra Trundle and thus an extra Ice Pillar goes a long way. So if you draw Lissandra later down the line, she'll be leveled up, and maybe even the Watcher will already cost 0. Spectral Matron on another Spectral Matron does the same thing. That counts as summoning 2 units that cost 8 or more, right? And so Spectral Matron, even when it doesn't hit the Watcher, still enables the Watcher most of the time. And so that's why we're running this as a 2 of. If we play Spectral Matron and just target the other Spectral Matron, that works. That usually will get the Watcher to 0, to a 0 cost unit. And then we can play it if we ever find a Lissandra. And if there's one thing this deck can do, it's survive. This deck is built generally to just survive, stop your opponent from killing you for as long as possible, wait for your frozen thralls to wake up, wait for Lissandra to be drawn off your deck, and eventually you'll find the tools you need to win. So without further ado, let us get into some games. Let's show you how to play some good old Watcher shenanigans, shall we? Okay, all right. So our first game is gonna be up against public enemy number 1, everyone's most hated deck to see, Twisted Fate Fizz. All right, so this right now, Twisted Fate Fizz is probably the single best deck in the game, and one of the reasons that this is a good deck to play right now is the Trundle Lissandra is because it kind of has a favorable matchup into Twisted Fate Fizz, and we'll see if we can illustrate why. So on our opening hand, we're obviously going to keep the Frozen Thrall. Keeping Vile Feast is probably good against that deck. There's nothing wrong with Kindly Tapping Keeper. We'll keep those 3. And we find a Trundle. We would like to see an Avalanche. Blighted Ravine is fantastic as well. Avalanche, Ice Shard, Blighted Ravine are kind of what you're looking for in the mulligan against this deck in particular. Especially Blighted Ravine and Avalanche, as they are your only answers to Twisted Fate, right? So obviously we're not doing anything on turn 2. We don't need to do anything now. We'll just pass. And we'll see what our opponent wants to do. Now we find an Avalanche as well. And this is where the skill of the deck starts to happen, is when do you pass and when do you play cards. And in this deck, you should sort of be leaning towards passing a lot. Like, I think my opponent probably wants to play this Ignition. If I pass, I imagine that's what they'll do. So I'm gonna pass first. Oh, they actually took the pass. Okay, that's totally fine. They miss out on a spell trigger. We do not care. We're gonna pass again probably, because the more times we pass, the closer we get to getting an 8/8 for free. We have to force our opponent to play cards. There's no reason for us to play cards until after our opponent has played cards. Don't even bother. Absolutely, dude. So what we want now is for our opponent to play a Twisted Fate. That would be nice. Oh, Zap Sprayfin. Okay, that's like a Twisted Fate. That is like a Twisted Fate. Interesting. So next turn, obviously, I'd like to play the Draklorn, because there's very little my opponent will be able to do about that. So right now, it's just more of a question of, do we play Blighted Ravine or do we play an Avalanche? And considering we have 2 Avalanches in our hand, I'm kind of leaning towards Avalanche. Blighted Ravine doesn't actually heal you if you're only at 18. So I think we're going to start off with an Avalanche that lets us go with the Vile Feast afterwards. I think that's probably the play. We could also have not done anything and just burned 4 mana, but that seems a little unnecessary as well. I'm also gonna go for the Vile Feast just because I do want to stop my opponent from getting that extra ignition next turn. No reason to let him have that. So we're gonna end the round. We'll take a free damage. Why not? But we'll end the round there. Now, this is a bit of a trap for this deck, especially. People really like playing Draklorn on 5 and getting the Frozen Thrall, and I could do that, right? I could play this Draklorn Inquisitor and get out my 8/8. I could do that. However, my opponent would then play Twisted Fate and probably pick a card and probably level up Twisted Fate, and there'd be nothing I could do about it. And then next turn, yeah, I'd have an 8/8 and my opponent would have a level up Twisted Fate. I'd have an 8/8, right? I would have an 8/8, but my opponent would have a leveled up Twisted Fate and he'd probably stun my 8/8, and that wouldn't go anywhere, right? So we're actually just gonna end that round. We're gonna burn all 5 of our opponent's mana. We don't care. And now that we have enough mana to play Draklorn and an Avalanche, we're probably going to do that. So we'll take the attack first, just to sort of soft pass, see what our opponent wants to do. There he is. There is the Fate. Public enemy number 1 himself. And the question is whether we Avalanche now or Draklorn first. And I think I'm going to Avalanche first. An Avalanche just to kill a Twisted Fate might not seem very good. But that's how horrible Twisted Fate is, right? That's how overpowered Twisted Fate is right now, and we have to sort of respect that. So now we should be fine to go for Draklorn. My opponent could, I suppose, get excited plus Mystic Shot to kill my Draklorn this turn. But we have a second one. I think that's fine. If he wants to commit all that to killing my my Draklorn, he can. He is perfectly able. You know, we are going to allow our opponent to try to do that. And looks like that's exactly what he's doing. That's fine. That is totally fine. Now, obviously, if we had a Troll Chant, you know, in our hand, at least for this turn, that wouldn't work anymore. Oh my goodness, that was a rummage onto double stress testing. That was 4 cards. I mean, he's got 2 fleeting cards in his hand. We can pass. He's gonna have to play those.
Never lost a
and look, one of them is a Twisted Fate. Amazing.
Eyes open.
Eyes open. Again, Twisted Fate needs to die as fast as possible. I think we even play the Blighted Ravine here. We are kind of running. This is our last AoE ability here. I think we literally still do it. We still do it. We cannot let Twisted Fate survive. And in fact, if he has a suit up here, yeah, see, there it is, pick a card. That was absolutely the proper play. We could even play a Lissandra here. And in fact, since I have no spells in my hand, I'd actually like to spend my spell mana. Lissandra has tough, so she's gonna take 1 from the Blighted Ravine, but that's kind of fine. We don't really mind.
A dark cloud looms on the horizon.
And as you can see, we played this Frozen Thrall on turn 1.
Shatter.
Oh, actually. Yeah, we'll prevent the damage.
I'm out.
We'll prevent that damage. And now there's not really any point in playing a Draklorn this turn because, you know, we're just going to get this Frozen Thrall next turn anyway, so it's not like playing a Draklorn actually speeds anything up. So I think we're fine to just play a Trundle. I want to make my opponent... I still want to freak out my opponent, though. I'm going to attack with Lissandra and make him think, oh, even now I still might have, like, an Avalanche or something. And I want to make him just play super safe, if that makes sense. I'll even pass now to make him question everything. Pass again. He goes for a Burblefish. Now we have a Withering Whale, right? I think now I actually will play the Trundle.
Nice to meet you.
We don't want to actually burn that mana. We don't want to actually get through that turn without spending any mana. These Burblefish are all dead to Withering Wail next turn, so they kind of don't matter. We'll pass here. We might end up actually playing Tavern Keeper on this Lissandra this turn though, just to keep her alive. Yeah, I should have done that. I actually should have done that a second ago, because she would level up next turn. So yeah, that was a mistake. I should have actually just Tavern Keepered her there. Probably even before playing Trundle. That was probably the correct move, is to do that before even playing Trundle. We don't need to play Tavern Keeper now. There's no point. Okay. Because we're getting a bunch of healing next turn. We're killing all these things except for the 4/4. And we're getting an 8/8 next turn. So I think we're probably doing pretty well, I think. Let's see what we got. We've got ourselves a Mind Meld. Oh, I don't think so, buddy. I do not think so. Nice try, guy. Nice try. Sure, absolutely. Make a copy. Make a copy, dude. Make a copy. You probably should have done that before even playing the Mind Meld. Now he's got himself a 10/10 Poro, but we can literally just flash freeze it, right? We can turn this Three Sisters into a flash freeze and freeze that if we need to. And probably we need to. Yeah, I mean, that's probably the play. Which means we can't play this Draklorn, which means we don't play anything. We just let that happen. All right, come at me, bro. Okay, he's also getting out his Burblefish. That's fair. That is fair. Now the question is whether we flash freeze it or entomb it. And let's see, that cost 1. So we're gonna go down to... There's not a ton of difference between flash freezing and entombing here. I'm just gonna go for the entomb. It's mostly the same. Maybe flash freeze would be better because it doesn't spend as much mana, but again, we don't have any spells other than this one in our hand, so it's not like spells matter. It's not like spell mana matters. So we're doing slightly more damage on the attack next turn by entombing it and then flash freezing it, so I'll take the entomb, but it doesn't really matter. All right, and now we go for the Ice Pillar.
I'm gonna make a U-sickle. Hail to the king.
Level up our Trundle. And if we had a Lissandra out this turn, we would level up both on the same action, which is really interesting. You can see Lissandra just leveled up too, even though she's not on the board, which is cute and funny. And just shows how synergistic these two champs are. I think it's actually good to also play the Draklorn here. We don't get the Frozen Thrall, but obviously that doesn't matter very much. We're mostly just playing him to deal a little bit of extra damage. All right, and we will take the kill on the Burblefish. We would prefer not get hit by this next turn, right? So we'll kill the Burblefish with Trundle, force him to block everything else. And oh look, very close to lethal. Now our opponent is getting, I think, a 4/4 Poro back from this Frozen Tomb, which is not ideal, but really isn't the end of the world. And actually, I think it's even best to heal here. Let's overwrite our Pillar. Our Pillar's not exactly doing anything for us, so we're gonna overwrite that and heal up our Nexus. And there should be no way our opponent can kill us with that many cards, right? Oh, well, if he draws some more, he might have a shot. But we get our Frostguard Thrall number 2 out of there. Oh, shoot. Oops. Okay, so I actually forgot. By entombing this Daring Poro, we preserved its stats. Okay, little lesson in what not to do. Oh, we should have flash freeze. Remember earlier when I was debating back and forth between flash freezing and entombing? Probably we should have flash freezed this this daring Poro, because now it's still an 8-8 and or a 10-10. That's not what we want. But luckily we do have the vengeance, so never punished. Never ever punished. Fizz is playful trickster. Sure, dude. It's a good plan. That was a good idea. But unfortunately, your Poro is gonna die. So yeah, that was a bit of a misplay on my part. Definitely we should have not entombed a temporary 10-10. Don't be like me, but everything else I feel like we did correctly there. So we don't even need to play this Draclorn. Obviously, we're popping our last Frozen Thrall this turn, and our opponent is way blown out of the water.
You can't take this crown.
That was pretty good. And that is why we play this deck, because it makes Fizz TF so very sad. It makes them so sad. All right, on to game 2. Okay. All right, we got ourselves Mono Fiora. Okay. So this is an interesting matchup. The most important card in this matchup is Vengeance. This card right here is the most important thing in this matchup, and we will be absolutely keeping a hold of it. Maybe Troll Chant. We maybe keep a Troll Chant here as well as a way to defend any sort of unit that we might get. But mostly what we want are Frozen Thralls here, right? Which we do not find. So we don't see any of our 1-drops, our Frozen Thralls. Three Sisters also is very good in this matchup. And Lissandra also is a good draw because simply because she makes a Frozen Thrall. This is one of those matchups in which Frozen Thrall actually puts in the work and is very important. So we're gonna play our Lissandra. Our opponent supposedly will probably play their Fiora, or perhaps their Fiora Finder. Oh no. No, they play the Inner Sanctum, which means they must have a Fiora in their hand. Or a way of finding it, right? What's that thing called? Rite of Calling? Probably means they have a Rite of Calling in their hand.
Always 2 steps ahead.
Always 2 steps ahead. So honestly, I think we just Vengeance here. Our opponent has 2 Lucky Finds that he won't be able to use. These Lucky Finds are capable of finding Spell Shield. So I don't think I want to let him use them. They are focus speed, which means they can't be cast in response to my Vengeance. He doesn't have enough mana for Rite of Negation. I think we just Vengeance Fiora, plain and simple. I think we just Vengeance Fiora, plain and simple. Oh, okay, Hourglass. I did forget about Hourglass. Right, this is a Shurima version. Okay. So our opponent goes for an Hourglass. He misses out on the Lucky Finds, which I guess is fine for us. I guess we have to be happy with that. Oh, hey, look, a Frozen Thrall. I could play Trundle here, but I don't think we want to. This is a deck. This is a matchup that gets played super slowly, right? I don't think we want to play Trundle. I think we want to play our Frozen Thrall and see if we can get these. The faster we can get out these 8/8s, the better. But everything else is kind of just as slow as possible. Okay, extra attack for Fiora. That is not. It's not the worst thing, actually. We don't really care about extra attack on Fiora. Mostly it's things that make Fiora harder to kill that we care about.
Strike quickly. On guard.
Sure, and Lissandra is gonna die here. That's sort of inevitable. There's not really much we can do about it. Wow, he's even going for the quicksand. Why? I don't know why you needed to do that, buddy. I'm not sure what the point was. She was dying regardless, so we'll just play our last frozen thrall. We probably don't need to play anything else. We maybe play Trundle this turn. Yeah, there's no reason not to play Trundle here.
King of Trolls coming through.
King of Trolls coming through. We end that round, we burn 3 mana. Not that he cares, I bet. Not that he cares much. Now, if I attacked with Trundle, my opponent might have a riposte, which we can actually answer with Troll Chant. But generally, attacking into a Fiora is not the correct move. Generally, that's wrong. You want to make them come to you. You don't want to attack them. And with this deck, I don't think this deck is any exception to that. It's probably even more true than usual. So our opponent has another payday. Let's see what he gives Fiora this time. Oh, quick attack. Oh, that's interesting. Quick attack is very interesting. All right, at this point, we probably should attack. If we let our opponent attack with the quick attack, that's just one more thing we have to play around. My opponent, by attacking now, it forces our opponent to play something before blocking. Like, he has to block and commit one of his resources, whereas on his turn, when he attacks, he won't have to do that. And I was gonna play Blighted Ravine, but again, the quick attack makes things a little awkward, so I think we can just end that round there. All our frozen thralls get a little more thawed. We'll start with the Troll Chant here. And we'll see what exactly our opponent has to answer this with. It is a riposte.
Your move.
It is a riposte, and that is still not enough to kill Trundle. So if he doesn't commit anything else, we'll take that. We'll take that bump. And we will be on our merry way. Okay, he goes for a second riposte. Oh, that's very interesting. So we could go for, obviously we could go for like a flash freeze to completely negate all of that attack. We could go for, or we could go for another Troll Chant to again prevent Trundle from dying. Neither of those things deals damage to Fiora, and the Three Sisters is generally more flexible, as it can also be like an Entomb. So I think we're just gonna go for Troll Chant again. There's no way Fiora dies here because of that barrier. Unfortunately, we don't have a Vile Feast or an Ice Shard, but we save Trundle, and that's kind of all we need here. We could kindly Tavern Keeper to heal up our Trundle, but obviously Fiora's at 7 health, so like single combat or whatever would kill him anyway. So the health here is completely irrelevant. And I think we just pass. Blighted Ravine doesn't do anything. Nothing does anything. We move on. So now this is an interesting turn. We're gonna take our Ice Pillar here. Level up our Trundle.
Hail to the king!
And then we can force Fiora into combat, which might be a very good thing. Lissandra is halfway to leveled up. We maybe even could have gone for Spectral Matron onto the Ice Pillar, but that wouldn't have given Fiora vulnerable. So I don't think that was correct. And now that we have double Three Sisters, this looks very good. This is looking quite good.
Get ready for a beatdown!
Okay, he's got another riposte. He has got another riposte, which means we should probably flash freeze this turn, unfortunately. Yep. Looks like that's gotta happen. Nothing else in our hand does anything. We'll end the round. Yep, we'll end the round. Aha! Ha 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 ha! Now we've got something interesting going on. Now we've got an interesting thing happening. We've got the Draklorn to completely unfreeze every single one of our 8/8s. And an Entomb, right? Which should mean if we can stick this Draklorn, we should win next turn. I don't think there's a way our opponent can stop that many 8/8s with Overwhelm from killing him. So that should be probably game if we can get this guy down. I do have another Flash Freeze. This can also be an Entomb if we need it to be. Entomb does lose to Rite of Negation, right? If our opponent makes it activates this in such a way that he can kill Trundle.
Why don't ya?
If he kills the Ice Pillar, I actually don't mind. I won't commit anything to stopping him from killing the Ice Pillar. If he wants to play like a Sharp Sight or a Shaped Stone or whatever and kill the Ice Pillar, that is fine with me. It levels up Fiora, but Fiora's not gonna win the game as long as I have this Three Sisters, right?
I have no equal.
So the Ice Pillar goes down, Fiora levels up, yada yada yada. We play Draklorn.
All will fear and love our dark lady.
I was thinking maybe we play Spectral Matron onto Draklorn. Yeah, and that's what I was thinking. Sorry, friend. That ain't gonna work. Nope, 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 nope. Nope, 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 nope. Nothing doing, buddy, nothing doing. And now, unless our opponent can somehow kill 2 of my units, which is not impossible, we should have lethal. Like we should have lethal here. We won't attack with the Draklorn just in case. But yeah, that should be game.
This is gonna be fun.
Sharp blade, sharp mind.
I suppose if my opponent actually has a judgment, I suppose if he has a judgment, he actually does win here. Oh wow, okay. Okay, guy. Alright, you got me. He actually got us. He actually comes packing the judgment. Well played. I guess if we had gone for Entomb last turn, if we had Entombed this, we actually would have won. That's funny. Okay. Fair enough, guy. Fair enough. Our opponent got us, but I mean, I don't think most solo Fiora decks actually run Judgment, so I'm not sure playing around it is correct. So, whatever. you can't play around everything. It's still early days of the expansion. People are playing all sorts of silly stuff, and you just can't play around every single silly thing, right? So, I was playing around Rite of Negation with instead of Judgment, and it turns out he had Judgment. What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? But you could see there the power of Draklorn and the power of getting out 4 8/8s on that turn. Even though we played all those Frozen Thralls really late in the game, even though they all came out super late, we still had an amazing like curve. We still managed to get them out all at once and like threaten an insane tempo swing on our opponent. And it, he had the perfect card he needed there, but so he got the victory. But I still feel like that showcases this deck in a really nice way. So enough about that last game. We got a new game. Now we've got Callista with Ionia, which might mean my first instinct was go get it Mistrates.
What's that noise?
But now I'm thinking this might actually be a Field Musicians deck, and I am very interested to see what we have here. I am very, very interested in whatever this might be. All right, so obviously we don't play anything. We're not gonna ice shard a one unit. Okay, they get out a cursed keeper. Good for them, good for them. Are you gonna butcher me, bro? No? No butcher? It's fine, you don't have to. Alright. That's fine, you can have your 2 damage, except that you can actually have no damage at all because I run Kindly Tavern Keeper. Now what are you gonna do? Callista. Now you're gonna play a Callista. Interesting. Interesting.
Let's take this outside.
We'll attack. This attack might be wrong. Right? Obviously he's gonna block with the hapless or not block at all.
Get me out of here!
And the hapless will give Callista 1 progress towards leveling up. And probably we're gonna want to prevent her from leveling up. Okay, our opponent passes back. I think I'm just gonna set up for an avalanche. We're gonna drain Callista, and this probably will tell our opponent exactly what is about to happen to him and give him a bit of a heads up. And I think we do it anyway. Because what my opponent probably wants to do is play a Blighted Caretaker here. He probably wants to Blighted, target the Curse Keeper just like that. Oh, I'm sorry, friend. It was a good idea. But I have an avalanche. I do in fact have an avalanche. I do in fact have the avalanche. I could even like troll chant to save my Kindly Tavern Keeper and like prevent the escaped abomination from attacking us as well. And honestly, maybe I should have, considering I have no other units in my hand. But I think this is probably fine. Yeah, maybe I should have. Maybe I should have even troll chanted there. Generally, I don't like tapping out that much. I don't like tapping too far underneath my opponent's mana. But that might have been better. Ooh, our opponent actually has the deny. Okay, he actually packs the deny. That's terrifying. That is terrifying. So we do have the second avalanche, but obviously we're not going to get a chance to play it before our opponent attacks us here. The question is whether we Ice Shard now or Ice Shard in a second. If we Ice Shard now, our opponent attacks with the Callista and summons a 2/1, versus if they don't attack, they summon... I think we Ice Shard now. I think we Ice Shard now.
The Thralls shall find their vengeance!
This allows us to block the 4/2 and kill it, versus the other way we wouldn't have been able to do that. And there's the 2/1, so we take 7 damage here.
Talk about your dad.
No problem, no sweat. Considering we have the Avalanche in our hand, it might have been better to actually block Callista and prevent a little bit more damage. I'm not too worried. All right, we'll drop the Frozen Thrall. On round 6, we're dropping a round 6 Frozen Thrall, and our opponent's not playing anything. We'll take that end. We'll take that end round. If our opponent just wants to attack us with nothing but the Callista, that's not great. But I mean, if we Avalanche, he just redevelops, right? And this is why Blighted Ravine is so good, is because we wouldn't be put in that situation with a Blighted Ravine. So we take 9 and we go to 3. Not ideal. Not ideal, to say the least. And if we can't draw a Trundle or something, then I guess it's just kind of curtains for us. We do need to draw units. Drawing units is something that would definitely help us out. Okay, well that is a unit, I guess. Sort of. That's sort of a unit. It gives us a unit at any rate. Wow, our opponent actually just nopifies this. Amazing. Okay. My opponent's playing this really smart. He's got tons of cards in his hand, and presumably all like pretty aggressive, but he's not playing them because he knows I have an Avalanche and he knows he has enough pressure with nothing but this Callista. So he's forcing me to play an Avalanche to kill one unit. Or punishing me. Wow. Wow. Our opponent is playing very smart right now. Wow. Wow, 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 wow. I can't pass. If I pass, I die. So I actually have to Withering Wail and then like Avalanche to survive here. That's really annoying. That's really annoying, and our opponent might kill us here. And this is why I cut it down to one atrocity, by the way, because this atrocity is doing absolutely nothing in my hand. It's just a dead card. And if we had two of them, that would only be more likely, right? So our opponent, I imagine my opponent's gonna pass here. I have to... I have to either Ice Shard or Avalanche here, right? I guess it's actually better to... No, it's better to Avalanche. We got Avalanche, that way we can Ice Shard at fast speed next turn. Which is super unfortunate. If my opponent plays, like, I don't know, a Wraith Collar, we literally die. If my opponent plays, like, oh, a second Callista, we literally die. Pretty unfortunate. That was a weird game. That was a really weird game. We had a pretty bad hand. But he got us. Yep. And if you're wondering how to play against this deck, this guy completely showed us how, right? All you gotta do is not commit. You just don't commit too much to the board if you don't have to, and just attack, attack, attack. All right, nice job, dude. Well done. Well done, well done, well done. All right, and we'll do one more game. That was a really weird game. Deny. We lost because he denied our Avalanche, which isn't something that happens very often. Okay. Pretty cool, pretty cool. Watch out for Deny. Deny is a good card. Okay. This is a much better hand. I think we just keep all of this, honestly. I think we just keep that all. That is a very good hand. Vengeance, not what we want to see in this matchup. For obvious reasons. I mean, in a pinch, you sometimes need a Vengeance Twisted Fate, but I mean...
These old eyes still see far and clear.
Not actually what you're looking for, right? And one thing I like about this deck is this deck, you may have noticed, is running absolutely no... ramp. There's no ramp going on in this deck. We're not running Catalyst or Wording Stones or anything like that. And we're not running Field Rush at the end either, right? This isn't that sort of deck, which allows us to sort of play Avaros and Sentry without it feeling nearly as clunky as it otherwise sometimes feels, right? Because sometimes when you play Avaros and Sentry, you can't play, you know, if you play Avaros and Sentry, you won't be able to play your ramp, your Catalyst on curve, which can be really frustrating. My opponent went for an Iterative Improvement on my
lost a
Avaros and
game.
Sentry, which is very fascinating. I'm not quite sure what to make of that. Maybe he has a terrible hand and he feels like he needs the card draw. Maybe he's just trying to set up a better Twisted Fate turn. Honestly, I'm not sure. And I don't really care. We're just gonna avalanche this now. Like, yeah. Easiest avalanche of my life. And that's basically the crux of this basic game plan, right? Or at least this matchup is Twisted Fate can never be allowed to live. That's basically the whole plan is Twisted Fate can't live. Anything else we have a plan for, right? Anything else we can sort of get around. Twisted Fate must die. Let's just stop all the damage here. We're just gonna stop every little bit of damage here. We're gonna prevent the ballistic bot from connecting. We could have maybe waited like for the attack to see if he wanted to play anything else. I doubt he would have played another unit there, especially not another unit with 1 health unless he just happens to also have a fizz in his hand. So I'm perfectly happy with just stopping that attack that way. And bada bing bada boom. Our opponent can't attack us. Excellent. Fantastic. So now my opponent has a bunch of fleeting cards in their hand. We will pass.
Oh boy, here I go!
We will continue passing.
Safety disengaged.
What's Fizz at? Fizz is at 3 out of 6.
Take it to the gun show.
We're probably going to end up playing a Blighted Ravine this turn, depending on what else our opponent wants to do here. Oh. Oh, our opponent wants to... Interesting. Our opponent wants to save his cards for later. It's fine by me. That is fine by me. You can do whatever you want, buddy. You can burn all my mana, see if I care. Okay, there's a suit up. That is annoying. A 5/5 Fizz is one of the only things this deck can't deal with easily. We can deal with it, right? And so maybe we should have gone for the Blighted Ravine last turn. But I mean, the odds of him top decking suit up there are never high. It just happened to happen, right? But that is something that we don't really have any way of dealing with. Okay. What else does he want to do? He wants to play a Wiggly Burblefish, because of course he does. What else do you want to do, buddy? And again, until our opponent attacks us, we can basically just keep passing. We can just pass and pass and pass and pass and pass and pass. Until our opponent attacks us, we don't care. We don't care about any of it.
Oh, I want to play!
Alright, so here he comes. We'll start with an Ice Shard here. And I think we're gonna go with Blighted Ravine. Probably next turn. So that is a bit scary. We're at 10 now. But we'll put ourselves back up to a little bit better than that.
Leave your tracks in the door.
And then next turn, we're going to go for Blighted Ravine. Obviously, we don't want to play Blighted Ravine this turn, because then it just allows him to redevelop afterwards. Ooh. Playing a Spectral Matron here actually is very tempting. Oh, that's so tempting. That might actually force him to block with Fizz. I actually really like that. I'm going to try it. This might not be correct. Maybe we should be going for Blighted Ravine this turn, but I actually really want to Matron my Matron here. which single-handedly levels up Lissandra. Doing that alone levels up Lissandra, right? And then if we like happen to do it a second time, we would just, you know, have her we would even have the Watcher enabled. Okay.
You're safe with me.
We're gonna do a full attack here. It's not like attacking with a Kindly Tavern Keeper is bad. If he blocks with Fizz, obviously that's good for us because Fizz gets damaged and we'll die to Withering Wail and stuff. So we just full attack here. Trading out with our units whenever we can against a deck full of elusives generally makes sense, right?
No fear.
And we do looks like we're forcing Fizz to die here,
I ain't afraid.
which is great for us. I would really like that. I would really like if Fizz were to die. What have we got? We've got ourselves a Mystic Shot. Absolutely. Absolutely.
No.
Fantastic.
Gotta go with the
And our
flow.
opponent has to start building their board up all over again. Sure. The more the merrier. Oh, hey, look, we finally find a frozen thrall. So this one probably will never do anything useful. It probably won't ever crack open. The game is probably going to end before then, but you never know. It's round 9. We're playing a frozen thrall. This might be useless, but it might not be useless. You never know.
I'm always up for a round or two.
I'm always up for a round or two.
Eyes
Interesting.
open.
All right, so our opponent plays a Twisted Fate. We could like Withering Wail plus Vile Feast to kill him, but honestly, I think I'd rather just Vengeance him. We're only taking 3-ish damage here. I'm still gonna keep passing. If our opponent passes back, that's actually a good thing for us.
Let's talk about
I think it's totally fine to just Vengeance TF here. We're gonna play Blighted Ravine next turn, but we don't want to give him the opportunity to maybe level Twisted Fate before the Blighted Ravine goes off, which he'd probably do. He would probably do that next turn if we didn't kill Twisted Fate now. So we're just gonna kill him now. Not have to worry about it. Play Blighted next turn and be good to go from there. Oh wow, my opponent actually has another 2-mana suit up. Okay, fair enough. Obviously, Spectral Matron is not doing much here. I don't think we can pass here. If we pass and we take 6, that's probably not conducive to our health. I think we just play Blighted Ravine. Take the heal. Okay, our opponent goes for an iterative. So he's got another unit that survives the ravine. And there's a Lissandra, our leveled up Lissandra, and that is a fantastic draw. We should be able, honestly, a Withering Wail and a Vile Feast here. This might seem like a lot we're putting into not taking this damage, but against Fizz TF, that's all you need to do. Stop as much damage as possible and you should be in a good spot.
Try again.
And now we can honestly pass here. I want to see what my opponent's got. Pick a card. Okay, and this leveled Lissandra plus Spectral Matron is actually
Never
just game
lost a
over,
fair
right?
game, or played one.
Ooh, or played one.
Blue as the
Our opponent might actually be able to If our opponent's actually able to level up Twisted Fate next turn, we could actually be in trouble. There is maybe a call to entomb Twisted Fate to stop him from seeing the cards. That seems a bit much. That seems like a bit much. I think I'm just gonna play Lissandra. We're gonna get our Watcher in our hand.
I will remind the world of true power.
You don't want to over-respect, you know, stuff. You don't want to over-respect your opponent's threats. Getting a tough Nexus is usually enough to win the game. It's going to be extraordinarily difficult for opponent to kill Lissandra. I mean, I guess Double Get Excited would do it. Double Get Excited would do it, but next turn we're going to play Spectral Matron, which will force our opponent. Actually, it doesn't even matter what he does. If we play Spectral Matron on the Watcher, even if he has like 3 cards and he levels up Twisted Fate and he stuns the Watcher, even then we can just play the second Watcher and we win. So that should be game.
Embrace the code.
Embrace the code. Oh, hey Trundle. A little late, buddy, but that's okay. Is everyone okay? And we're gonna blow up his deck now. Small Dad, we're gonna blow up your deck now. I hope you're not using that. I hope you're not used to having that deck. Cause my Watcher is just gonna kill it now. Sure. Draw as many cards as you need, dude. Get them while they're there. And that's game. Boop. You poor thing. Opponent has no deck. Opponent loses the game. Like, he could block the Fearsome, he could block the Watcher and only take 4, but like, that's it. That's GG. That is
Charmed,
a GG, and that is why we run Spectral Matron. Man,
charmed, I'm sure.
I'm glad that Spectral Matron now has a deck that she can call home. This card has always been like pretty cool. It's always been like a cool card that I've always wished saw play. And it's always just been like kind of short of seeing play. And now she has an actual deck that she makes a lot of sense in, and she's really powerful. And I like that. That's so good for her. I love that for her. Here, we'll even play the real Watcher here.
I thought there was more time.
Nope, there's no more time. Absolutely. Absolutely, that literally doesn't even deal damage to my Nexus. We'll just throw out our Ice Shard. Show him exactly what we've got here. Our opponent's holding us hostage. We can't end the game until he surrenders. But he can't end the he can't, you know, pass or he ends the game as well, so. No, you can't do that. No. My Lissandra. Leave her alone. My Lissandra. There we
You
are.
will do as I command.
We'll give him the GG. And that alone, I think is a worthy reason of playing this deck, is you just absolutely sit. You just sit on Twisted Fate Fizz, and that makes me happy.
Rule the Freljord.
So yeah, there you guys go. I hope you guys enjoyed those games today. If you did, leave a like. It really helps out the channel, and I don't think I have anything else to say today. I usually have like a bit of an outro, but I don't think I have much to say today. That was it. That was some good Lissandra Watcher gameplay, dude. We actually got to see the Watcher go off. We got to see Spectral Matron doing her thing. We got to see Draklorn Inquisitor doing his thing, making a bunch of 8/8s. Yeah, it was a good time. So I hope you guys enjoyed, and I hope you guys learned something, and I will see you guys in the next video. Take care, and I'll see ya.